plans. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. Mike, one of the many questions that people have as it relates to Social Security and Medicare is, what's the difference in terms of how much I earn based on when I apply?
Yeah, and there's plenty of confusion around all of this because the ages have changed over the years as we've made reforms to the Social Security program, and there's different ages for Medicare and Social Security. So first things first, for vast majority of folks now, 67 is the current full retirement age for Social Security, whereas 65 is the eligibility age for Medicare, and then you scale up or down your benefits depending on how much earlier or later you claim when it comes to Social Security.
An important thing to note, you don't have a do-over on this. Basically, when you claim Social Security, that is what you are locking yourself into. The programs where you used to be able to adjust that, they haven't been around for a while now.
No, and so, for example, if you end up claiming your benefit at 62, in addition to having penalties for how much you get in earned income, you're going to be collecting about 30% less than your full retirement benefit, whereas if you wait all the way until age 70, you'll be collecting about 124% of that full retirement age benefit.
Our guide is titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare, and there are two ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by going to ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request it at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane.
Chuck Paul Tucker with Paul Tucker not all eyes, but I'd say the vast majority of them continue to be focused on Davos, Switzerland, where you've got world leaders and billionaires rubbing elbows, talking about, hey, what do we want to do this year? What do we think about, expansion plans for this business? What do we think about expansion plans for that one? But the topic that everyone's been talking about over the last few days is one that, quite honestly, I don't think
I'm sure it's never been brought up before.
Well, no, quite honestly, I'll make the case that, up until the last year, I don't know if the average American has thought of Greenland ever. And I don't say that with any disrespect to Greenland in and of itself. It's just like, it's fundamentally the only thing that we hear about Greenland. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. You learn in, like,
it's
third
icy.
grade. Here are the things that you learn. You learn that Leif Erikson came across it way back when. And you learn that Greenland is actually made of ice and Iceland is actually green.
Yes.
And other than that, I don't think the average person really has thought about Greenland that much over the course of their life. It's just not something that is particularly important to the average American's daily lived experience, unlike, everything else that you have to do. Eat, sleep, go to work, and yada, yada. But it's in the news now, and so clearly you've got some tensions that have been building over this over the last couple of weeks in particular, and culminating in the last day or two where it appears that, at least from a talking perspective, you've got other world leaders that appear to be getting kind of sick of the whole, okay, we want to take Greenland thing, and it's at the point where I think you're likely at kind of put up or shut up time as far as, hey, what's actually going to happen on this?
Yes, it does appear that President Trump just this morning ruled out using force to acquire Greenland. But in general, what we've seen from the markets over the course of yesterday's action, where there was a pretty significant sell-off, not crazy, was this sort of sell America trade where you saw interest rates moving in an upwards trajectory. You had the U.S. 10-year Treasury up about 5 or 6 basis points. The U.S. 30-year Treasury spiked as well. You also saw a pretty significant rally in the metals, so the sort of safe haven play with gold and silver upticking pretty significantly, and then some sell-off on the U.S. markets. There was some noise made that the Danish pension system sold some of their U.S. Treasuries. So it seems like from the stack today, Chuck, in general, it is reminiscent of April of last year a little bit, with some concerns.
Very little bit.
Yeah, just a touch, not nearly as significant. But I'm not willing to go where some of these pieces are going, which is kind of questioning the U.S.'s standing from a global economic perspective. I think it's a little bit whiplash in terms of the reaction here in some of the pieces in the Wall Street Journal and other publications out there.
So let's talk about, kind of where the rubber actually meets the road on this stuff, because as we've seen, whether you're talking about, from European leaders or, quite honestly, like from the president, you'll hear talk about, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that, and then it's, okay, here's what we're actually implementing. And I'm a big believer in pay attention to what people do, not what people say, because ultimately talk is cheap. Like, anyone can say, like, oh, like, we want to do this or we want to do that. It's, hey, what are we actually going to do? And I want to talk about this in a couple of respects. The first is, I've heard from a number of completely panicked people over the last couple of days noting, like, hey, Europe holds like $8 trillion in U.S. Treasuries. Like, what would happen, like, to the financial system if they just decided to sell them? And so this is, like, quite honestly, the most ridiculous thing that we've heard in terms of just not being grounded in reality for several reasons. The first is, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I checked, Europe does not, act in a cohesive fashion with every single, like, there is no just, like,
Chuck,
person at the head of Europe who just says, page. Like, right, like, the Greeks and the Germans are always getting along. The Spaniards and the French are just, always buddy-buddy. No, like, they've got differences of opinion on these things. There's no just head of Europe sitting there looking at this treasury portfolio being like, do I press the sell button today? So, like, first of all, like, just from a, like, unified approach standpoint, there is none in Europe. So it's not something where Europe would suddenly wake up and be like, we're going to sell all of these today. The second piece, if Europe did act in a completely unified manner and said, hey, we're going to sell all of these today, basically what would happen is there is no market to execute that kind of trade. So first of all, they couldn't. And second, whatever they wanted to move the money into, you would take such a hit with basically moving like any kind of significant volume in that fashion, then you probably lose half to 2/3 of your money right off the bat anyways.
Right.
So it's like, let's pump the brakes on what may or may not happen. Now, if you want to have, some interesting other conversations that I think are actually happening in Europe right now amongst different pension funds and investment vehicles and things like that, here are some of the ones that may be coming up. Hey, we as a pension fund own X dollars in U.S. Treasuries. Do we want to sell a portion of that soon? If we do, great, we can do that. More importantly, hey, when those bonds mature, do we want to reinvest them all into U.S. Treasuries, or do we want to diversify them differently? Mm-hmm. Those are conversations that could be happening. Other questions. Hey, on the U.S. equity side of things, do we, as European, investment managers, want to continue to allocate so highly to the U.S. in the future, or do we want to plan on reducing those allocations over time? Not to zero, okay? Again, these are not dumb people. They might, live in a different country and have different things that they're focusing on, but they're not inherently, stupid or anything. That's not what we're talking about. So they might say, yeah, right now our fund might hold, this, pension fund X might hold, 50% European stocks and 50% U.S. Maybe they decide, hey, do we want to adjust down to 40% U.S. over the next 5 years? I could see those as being plausible conversations. And these are conversations that, based on, kind of what's coming out, probably are starting to happen in a number of different respects and could impact investment flows to the United States over longer periods of time in ways that, could have an impact. But, let's get rid of this idea that, Europe is going to just wake up tomorrow and be like, well, let's go and, liquidate all of our U.S. Treasury holdings. A, no, they're not dumb. B, they can't actually do that. There's no market to do so. And C, if you just look at how these things operate, there is no unified approach. It doesn't work like that. So I think we need to get rid of some of the hysterics around some of this stuff and get back to being a little bit more grounded in reality and what can and can't happen. It is clear that, again, these tensions are higher and these conversations are being had, but I think the impacts likely play out over a period of months and years if they do. And the other thing just to keep in mind, I'm not 100% sure that they do play out in any large-scale fashion. They may not, but just because someone talks about doing something doesn't mean they're actually going to do anything either, Paul.
Right. I'm with you.
So I think one other piece, just what I'll add, people looking at the U.S. bond market yesterday and being like, oh, this must have been about Greenland. Paul, has there been any news about Japan invading Greenland in the last week?
No.
Tucker, can you confirm there's been no news
Confirmed.
about Japan? Okay.
I got a little worried that I missed that. My kids have been sick. I've been off my game.
So the reason that I bring this up is if you take a look at Japanese 30-year bond yields, just as an example, the Japanese 30-year bond yield yesterday went from 3.56 to 3.77%. That's 21 basis points. That's a bigger move than what happened in U.S. markets. The point that I make on this, it's not just what was going on between the U.S. and Greenland that was moving U.S. Treasury markets yesterday. There is a larger thing afoot that is happening in global bond markets overall, and I'm not really convinced that the bond market move yesterday had anything to do with the Greenland situation. Because if it did, then explain to me Japanese government bonds blowing out by, twice as much as U.S. government bonds. If you go and take a look at the United Kingdom, just as an example, and their gilts, their 10-year gilts, those I'm trying to pull up. Actually, it hasn't even processed through for yesterday yet, so I don't know what the move was. But I'm guessing when I look tomorrow, it will be up as well, because this was not just a U.S.-focused interest rate move. U.S. stocks did feel it more than international ones, but the interest rate phenomenon was global yesterday. And so I think that you need to, think about these things when trying to come up with, the right story on this. I'm not convinced that what we saw yesterday was Greenland related with at least what was going on in the bond market. In equities, maybe a little bit, I don't really know. But just be careful about ascribing, blame to any one particular story, because there are a lot of different things that go on here. Let's take a quick break. When we do return, let's talk a little bit about, hey, what happens if we do see, a prolonged slump in equities? Hasn't been the case over the last year, obviously, very much the opposite. But a piece from the Wall Street Journal talking about this. What could we see if equities start to slump? We'll discuss right after this.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your days snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest mistakes you can make as you prepare for retirement is missing important deadlines for Social Security and Medicare. You can apply for Social Security up to 4 months before you want benefits to begin. Medicare has a 7-month enrollment window around your 65th birthday. Missing that window may cause coverage delays. Something else to consider is that you don't have to start them at the same time. You can enroll in Medicare at 65, but delay Social Security to increase your monthly benefit. Learn more in our new guide called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. To get your free copy, call us today at 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or request the guide online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. Experience America's Caribbean and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands while enjoying incredible beaches, world-class cuisine, and unforgettable sunsets. The weather is perfect all year round, so head to visit usvi.com and book your trip to St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John. Enjoy one or all three and enjoy the vacation of a lifetime. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Plan your winterscape now at visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Paul, there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning. It's titled, "A Stock Slump Could Slam the Economy." First, I do feel the obligatory need to point out that, like, every time we get a 2% down day in markets now, you get one of these pieces published. So, I just think it's ridiculous. But describe to me what is being outlined in this piece.
This hits on the point that we talked about quite frequently last year on the program, this idea that the stock market has been on a tremendous run in the United States over the course of the last 3 years or so. And as a result of that, you have people who are in high income tier thresholds. So those households making over $250,000 or more, kind of the top 10% of the United States household incomes, they have a lot of their wealth in stocks, whether that's in 401ks or just in regular investment accounts. And the biggest statistic that stood out to me in my mind last year was this idea that those people account for basically half of the spending throughout the United States. That's a record that goes back to 1989, where we haven't seen it get that high. And so as a result of that, you have this sort of imbalance where you have a lot of wealthy people who are accounting for a lot of the spending. A lot of their wealth is tied to stocks, and if stocks were to sell off, that could lead to the economy slowing down and basically having an adverse effect on consumer spending and some of these other areas that are tracked in terms of economic health. You also have a large concentration of wealth within 7 or 8 companies in the S&P 500, the best, U.S. benchmark that you have for the markets. That leaves, markets in a little bit more sensitive spot. Again, I'm just giving the parameters around the piece. I'm not saying I sit here and view it as a huge concern. I do wonder aloud that the stock market rally that we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, and it does seem like a lot of the spending being congested in that top tier, that if we were to see a pretty big sell-off with the markets, I do wonder how that would impact GDP and things like that. I do think it would be a negative impact, but how severe is that impact is something that I just am curious. I don't want to see it, but it would be interesting to see what does happen if that is the case.
Yeah, and look, the stuff that's in this piece is it's stuff that we've talked about, and that, hey, we've seen slowing income growth overall over the last year or so, but it hasn't impacted consumer spending. And we've brought up, hey, there are more Americans now than ever, both as, an absolute number and just as, a percentage of overall Americans that are receiving incomes from things like Social Security and their portfolio and pensions,
right,
as opposed to, coming from just going out and working a job. There still are 170 million Americans that are employed on any particular, day, week, month. Again, these are estimates from, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But there are a large number of Americans that are 72 years old and not working, not planning on working, and they get their $1,200 Social Security check, and maybe they pull $1,000 a month out of their portfolio, and that is their spending for the month. And so if that portfolio is impacted, does it cause an impact there? The other place that I think is undeniable, and this, again, like talk to people in their 20s, and you'll get this. There are people that, hey, they've got $800 in a brokerage account, and they're, using different, option strategies, like 0 days to expiration, this and that, and hey, like this was up and I made $500 and I can go out and spend that this week. And that's absolutely happening at the margins as well. If you see a market that goes into any kind of extended slowdown, does that kind of spending dry up as well? And so I think there are a lot of different ways that you can look at this.
And I get to the point where I can agree with the premise of the piece. I think the idea that, hey, we're in a stock slump because we're now 2.5% away from all-time highs instead of 0.5% away from all-time highs, I find laughable. And this happens not even every year now. It's like every month that we have one of these dips, it happens. Because, look, we had one of these in October. People started talking about it. We had one in November. People talked about it. We had one in December. People talked about it. And, oh, golly gee willikers, now it's January and the Wall Street Journal's publishing pieces on it. So a prolonged stock slump will happen at some point. Stocks don't just go up every year, historically at least. Maybe things will change. Maybe it's a whole new world now. But my guess is stocks probably aren't just going to go up every year for the rest of our lives. But I just don't know that you can look at this right now and be like, this is the time when the slump begins. It may not. I don't have, strong conviction where I look at this and I'm like, yeah, this is the time. There are concerns, but there are always concerns in markets.
The other tried and true piece to put out is all the other 493 companies in the S&P 500, this is their year to take over. And it may be, but it just feels like every single time we get to the start of a new year and you go through 6 days of trading activity, everyone wants to start to point to the fact that there is going to be, this weakness in that group. And we'll see. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but it just seems like those two are sort of the go-tos.
I'm closer on the latter for reasons that we've outlined over the last few months than this is the start of a prolonged down market.
Yeah.
I'm closer on, hey, the data center trade for reasons X, Y, and Z might be starting to get a little bit long in the tooth, as opposed to, yeah, the bear market's here. I don't know about that. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got Wall Street Watch, and then Todd Lutzke joins us for Ask Todd.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your days snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Retirement comes with a lot of exciting freedom, but also with some permanent decisions. 2 of the most important ones are when to file for Social Security and how to set up your Medicare coverage. Claim Social Security too early and your monthly check may be permanently reduced. Missing Medicare enrollment deadlines might mean significant penalties and gaps in coverage. We have a new guide available called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It breaks down when you can apply, what information you'll need, and how these decisions fit into a smart, coordinated retirement plan. Get your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts. In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/backtoschool.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
This is Tucker Silva, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And we're talking about last-minute nursing home lessons that can help save your assets. What can be done last minute to save your home and your liquid assets when one spouse is entering the nursing home?
So with a married couple, you do have more options than as a single person, but with a married couple, your home is not at risk because the community spouse living in the home is allowed to keep the home. Doesn't matter the value, as long as they're living there, it's not countable and non-lienable. They also give the healthy spouse about $135,000 to keep. It's not a lot when you think of the big picture, but all the rest of the money would be at risk. But at least a quick last-minute way of protecting all those other dollars, all over and above that $135,000, would be to basically transfer the assets, those excess assets, to the community spouse, which, by the way, is not a disqualifying transfer, so no 5-year waiting period. And then once that community spouse gets those assets, depending on their age, they can buy what is known as a Medicaid qualifying annuity. These are special annuities. They convert the excess assets into an income stream, and then it's no longer an asset, keeping the community spouse over assets. Then the community spouse and the sick spouse are under assets, and they're eligible for Medicaid.
Cushing & Dolan has written a brand new guide, especially for those of you who have put off doing your planning and are now faced with a last-minute nursing home situation. Request this brand new guide from Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699. It's called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. 866-848-5699. Or if you prefer, you can simply go to their website, legalexchangeshow.com, and request it there.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, after yesterday's sell-off, where the S&P 500 and NASDAQ plunged over 2%, markets today are rebounding as Wall Street reacts to President Trump's remarks at the World Economic Forum in Davos this morning, where Trump called for immediate negotiations to acquire Greenland and said he won't use force. Right now, the Dow is up nearly 1% or 477 points. S&P 500 up nearly 1% as well, or 66 points higher. NASDAQ up about 1% as well, or 230 points higher. Russell 2000 up 1.5%. 10-year Treasury yield is down 1 basis point at 4.281%, and crude oil is down about 1/3%, trading just above $60 a barrel. Netflix shares falling over 3% after the streaming giant posted better than expected quarterly results. The company also counted a record 325 million global paid subscribers. However, concerns about rising costs for Netflix are weighing on the stock. Meanwhile, United Airlines stock up over 2% after the carrier said it expects earnings to jump this year, with its pricier seats and loyalty program outperforming standard ticket sales. In the previous quarter, its loyalty program revenue climbed 10%, while its premium offerings grew 9%. Elsewhere, Kraft Heinz shares are down almost 5%, following news that Berkshire Hathaway may soon sell some or all of its stake in the food maker, just months after the firm announced plans to split into 2 companies. And Johnson & Johnson stock down over 1.5% after the pharmaceutical company posted stronger than expected financial forecasts for this year, in addition to solid earnings for the previous quarter. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutzke is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutzke.
As promised, we're now joined by Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan for Ask Todd. This is your chance to ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air right now at this very particular moment in time. Phone lines are wide open. We've cleared them for you at 888-205-2263. That is the number to call to ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air right now. Again, 888-205-2263 is the number, and we've got plenty of room, but make sure that you get in early because we can usually only get to 2 or 3 calls. That phone number, again, is 888-205-2263. Mr. Lutzke, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and you?
Doing okay. I went to, over the long weekend, I was trying to buy a new mirror, and I went to the store, and the guy tried to sell me a broken one.
Yeah?
And I said, man, that really reflects poorly on you. You know, like it just was not good. Todd, I want to talk to you a little bit about the 5-year look-back period that is often referenced for protecting assets from long-term care costs. Can you give listeners a little bit of detail, maybe an example or two of just how that 5-year look-back actually works in practice? Like, what does it mean? Like, what actually happens during a Medicaid application for that 5-year look back?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand not only the 5-year look back, but conversely, the penalty period calculation. There's actually 2 different calculations that are done. So the most common one, the one you're referring to, is this 5-year waiting period. So if you were to take an asset and move an asset, the rule generally is that you take an asset that is otherwise available to the nursing home and put it somewhere that it's no longer available, and you don't get back fair market value in exchange for the transfer, that's a bad thing. That's a disqualifying transfer. And so from the moment you do that, call it the date of gift, the moment you do that, that starts a 5-year waiting period. So for the next 5 years, you are not able to apply for Medicaid. In other words, if you stay out of a nursing home for 5 years, then whatever you transferred probably to one of these Medicaid irrevocable trusts would then be protected from the cost of long-term care and no payback provision needed. Okay? So that's pretty clear, so you don't have to worry about the value, how much you transferred, what it was worth. You just know that it's 5 years. It could be $1. It's 5 years. Okay. So we don't have to worry about that calculation. But if you make a gift, do this transfer, and want to apply for nursing home care, say after 2 years, well, then what would happen is they would say, well, not only did you not make the 5 years, but maybe the penalty period is shorter. And the penalty period is the value of the transfer, let's say $200,000, divide by the average monthly cost of nursing home care in the state, which that number fluctuates all the time. I don't know exactly the number today. I think it's somewhere around 15 grand, 14 or 15 grand. And then you divide that out and it gives you a number of months. Now that number of months could be far less than 5 years. People say, well, that's great. Yeah, well, that's great, but that's not how it works. That smaller penalty period would not begin to run until you enter a nursing home, apply for Medicaid, and get denied because of that transfer. That's when the start date would run. So we're much happier with just the 5 years. Get it in, get it done, move on, and get over it. So there's a little difference between the two. But yeah, getting that 5-year clock started, folks, planning in advance is generally better than not planning in advance, and you have more options when you do it. For example, even if you had gotten past 4 years and you got sick, you might say, well, you know what, I'll just private pay for 1 year. and now I'll protect all these assets that I transferred at the cost of maybe $100,000. I might do that. You'd have that option available. So always good to get the clock running, folks.
Talking with Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. Still room on the phone lines for your estate planning questions. 888-205-2263 is the number to call. Again, that is 888-205-2263. We're going to take a quick break right now, but when we come back, it is right to your calls with Todd Lutzke. That phone number, one more time, is 888-205-2263. Your calls when we return.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutzke every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your days snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Social Security and Medicare are oftentimes lumped together, but may be handled separately. And depending on your strategy, they could shape your entire retirement plan. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Choosing when to start Social Security has many effects, including determining the amount of guaranteed income you receive each month. Medicare decisions go beyond coverage as they can impact premiums, out-of-pocket costs, and access to providers throughout retirement. Our new guide is called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It will help you learn how these decisions may fit together and how to take the right steps at the right time to build a secure retirement plan. Call us at 800-393-4001 to get your copy of How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. From the other law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan, here's something you need to hear. Most people think long-term care planning is something they'll get to someday, until suddenly someday is today. When a spouse or parent needs nursing home care and no planning was done, the costs can be overwhelming. Cushing & Dolan are elder law and estate planning attorneys who help New England families protect their homes, savings, and retirement, even when a health crisis comes out of nowhere. They've just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It explains what options may still be available and what steps you should take before writing that first check to a nursing home. If you've been putting this off, or a loved one needs care right now, time matters. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
You're listening to Ask Todd with Todd Lutzke on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, let's get right to your calls for Todd Lutzke. First in the queue. I just closed my screen. Okay, here we go. First in the queue for Mr. Lutzke, we got Chris in Milton. Chris, what's your question for Todd?
Hi, Todd. Okay, I'm helping the family of a deceased relative do a Massachusetts estate tax return.
Oh, okay.
And, sadly. The question I have is, there's 4 lots of land in Florida. Land isn't as expensive as here, but they're worth about $150,000 in total.
Okay.
And I've seen 3 different approaches to how to handle that on the Mass estate tax return.
Okay, I can stop you right here and give you the answer.
Okay. Yeah.
Ready? And it's
I'm ready.
A great question. And you can read the statute 6 ways to Sunday, and I've lectured on this. They get it wrong, okay? So Massachusetts, let's just be clear. Massachusetts, well, first of all, the person that died, I assume, is a Massachusetts resident?
Correct.
Okay, and owns out-of-state property in Florida, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep, it's worth about $150,000.
Massachusetts cannot tax out-of-state property. There's a DeSori case. That's the name of the case, the DeSori case that was done, and it was stated that it is unconstitutional for Massachusetts to tax out-of-state property. But the way they tell you to calculate it on the 706, even in the instructions to the 706, is inaccurate. Okay, so the way you report it is you simply put on the 706 tax return, let's call it Florida property located at XYZ Street, and describe it, and put 0 next to the value. 0. Do not put a value on it. You can show it, but put 0. It is not taxed. It's not subject to a calculation. It's just not taxed. So hopefully that helps you, and I know the instructions are incorrect in terms of telling you how to report it. And oftentimes the statute, although I think they're working on updating it, I think they updated it in August of 2025 finally, and I think they got it right. I think it's 65C is the statute, and you can find out how they calculate the tax, but not taxable. So great question, and I think that, Chris, helps a lot of people out there. Even practitioners sometimes don't realize that it's not taxable in Mass, and they might even now be saying, I'm going to go back and amend my 706s that I've done for my clients to get a refund because I actually ended up paying tax on it when I should not be. So great question. Thanks for that. And folks, that's somebody who passed away, but people who are living and are faced with nursing home care last minute, we have a guide, long-term care planning for the procrastinator, right? It helps us understand not to write the check last minute. People who have done planning are going to have some assets outside the trust. That's okay. People who have not done planning are going to have more assets at risk. So there's something for everyone in this guide. If you're faced with going into a nursing home, this guide will help you understand how annuities work to protect excess dollars, excess resources, and it will also explain pooled trusts. It also explains how assets are countable and not countable depending on, what they are, from houses to rental properties to vacation homes to IRAs. Yes, life insurance, they're all treated differently for married couples and for single people. So you need to understand the difference. Folks, get the guide. Don't write the check. 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. You can download it there. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
Todd, got another one for you. Let's go to Steve in Plymouth. Steve, what's your question for Todd?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think you partially answered my question with this last answer. I was initially calling to find out what type of vehicles could this 5-year look back utilize, And it sounds like there's different types of trusts that you had mentioned. And my second question was, what happens if I move during the 5-year period and go to a different state? Does the 5-year clock reset, or how does that work?
So great question. And for everybody, folks, when I mention trust, there's really only one kind that I'm aware of. So if I'm going to be doing this, makes it so much easier for everybody, right? If I'm going to be trying to protect assets from the cost of long-term care, I'm going to use a Medicaid grantor irrevocable income-only trust. I would have made the title longer if I could, but that's basically the description of the kind of trust that you need. There's really no other kind that I'm aware of that will give you that protection. And yes, to your point, Steve, the moment you put the assets into that trust, whether it's a home, a vacation home, money, a brokerage account, doesn't matter, not your IRA, but these other assets, that starts the 5-year clock running. And if you stay out of a nursing home for 5 years and then get sick, those assets are protected and not subject to a state recovery or payback to the state after you pass. So that takes care of that piece. Then, of course, you ask, what happens if I move? If you move, not a problem. I've been at this for over 30 years, and I can't tell you how many people I've kicked out of the state. No, I shouldn't say it that way. But, you know, they want to protect assets. They want to not pay estate taxes. They want to move to a state that doesn't have estate taxes. But, yes, that happens. And if they move, whether it's during the 5-year waiting period or after, it doesn't matter. Yes, you need to update. Say you move to Florida. You need to update all of your estate planning documents, the will, the health care, the power of attorney, to reflect Florida. But you don't have to change the trust. And you will not reset the 5-year waiting period. So I think we've addressed your questions. Hope that helps. So that, folks, is basically the plan for Steve, and I hope I addressed that for Chris as well.
Todd, we were talking earlier in the segment just about that 5-year look-back period. If someone isn't through that 5-year period, what options are available for last-minute planning, just in terms of quick general summary?
So I think let's just put some numbers to it so we can make sense. Let's say we've put in an irrevocable trust like I was just talking about with Steve. Let's say we put in an irrevocable trust, $1 million home and $500,000 investment portfolio. And we're 4 years into our waiting period.
Okay.
But outside the trust, there's always something, right? Like what? Well, the IRA, that never went in the trust. We couldn't put that in the trust because if we moved it to a trust, we would have, a huge income tax hit. So let's say there's $500,000 sitting in an IRA and $50,000 sitting in their personal bank account. Okay? Folks, this is typical. This is exactly what you might run into even after you've done the planning, which is why the guide is really for everyone, because there's always going to be these assets outside the trust. But because they got this clock started, one of the options I would give them when they would come in the door would be, well, you're 4 years in. You could just private pay for 1 year, and that'll get you to the 5 years. And if I private pay for 1 year, I will protect $1.5 million of assets that I tucked away in the trust years ago. Correct? Correct. I tell them, great idea. Well, how much is that going to cost me? Well, I don't know, probably about $140,000. But you know what? You might be getting $30,000 or so in Social Security. So it's really only going to cost you about $110,000. Oh, look, I got $500,000 in my IRA. I'll just use that. And then after that, we've protected $1.5 million. Then we will then apply all the things that are listed in this guide as to how to protect the balance of these assets that are outside the trust so that you could still become eligible for Medicaid. So hopefully that's helpful.
Fantastic. Mr. Lutsky, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Still more to come as we get towards hour 2 of the show. We're going to be talking Netflix earnings. They reported after the bell yesterday, so always interested to see what the largest streamer is doing. We'll also be talking a little bit about United earnings. They reported after the bell as well. What they tell us about the state of the travel industry. And then a lot of chatter and a lot of hype about AI. CEOs like to pitch that it's actually making, some progress and improving productivity. What do employees have to say about it? We will discuss all of that and more in hour 2.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away, but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We have a guide available this month titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. Mike, when we talk about actually determining when to apply, there are a few different factors that go into it, but I think really the specifics of, hey, if I want money at date X, when do I apply is kind of at the crux of this.
Oh, sure. And, oftentimes when you go to apply, they will actually tell you that they're backdating your application to the date that you apply. And so your first check might include a few checks of Social Security. You do have to be specific about when you request the actual start date. The good news is you do get a prorated increase for, we talk about this in years, but you do get a prorated increase for every month that you end up delaying your Social Security benefit, and you can be highly specific about when you actually want the income to start.
How does one go about determining what age they actually should start Social Security?
Yeah, look, every actuary out there will tell you this is all a life expectancy question and calculation. I'll tell you there's more to it than that, but it is highly specific to each individual. When am I retiring? When is my spouse retiring? When do I actually need this money to kick in? And what is my backup plan for covering my expenses if it doesn't kick in right away? So yes, life expectancy, a major factor in the decision, but there are other questions to be answered as well.
Our guide is titled How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare, and the ways that you can request it, there's 2 of them. First, you can call 800-393-4001. The second way, you can go to armstrongadvisory.com. Again, that phone number is 800-393-4001, or request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. From the other law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan, here's something you need to hear. Most people think long-term care planning is something they'll get to someday, until suddenly someday is today. When a spouse or parent needs nursing home care and no planning was done, the costs can be overwhelming. Cushing & Dolan are elder law and estate planning attorneys who help New England families protect their homes, savings, and retirement, even when a health crisis comes out of nowhere. They've just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It explains what options may still be available and what steps you should take before writing that first check to a nursing home. If you've been putting this off, or a loved one needs care right now, time matters. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much, and they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts. Do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane.
Chuck, Paul Tucker with you, and as we take a look at what's going on in markets today, we've got a little bit of a rebound happening after yesterday's sell-off. S&P 500 up 71 points, about 1%. Dow Jones Industrial Average up 457 points, also about 1%. And the NASDAQ Composite up 282 points, or about 1.25%. So not reclaiming all of yesterday's losses, but about halfway there on your major indices. 10-year Treasury kind of in the same boat, down 2.4 basis points to 4.271%. I will note that on yesterday's move up in Treasuries, the average interest rate on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage rose by 0.14% to 6.21%, effectively putting it back to where it was at the start of the year before President Trump's announcement that he was instructing a couple of the GSEs, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, to purchase a couple $100 billion in mortgage-backed securities. So you basically haven't seen, aside from if you were lucky enough to be able to lock in a rate, last week basically, you had some lower rates. But other than that, basically where we've been for the last month or so, dating back to just before Christmas. And taking a look at other markets, dollar index not really showing much of a rebound here, only up 0.02% to 98.46. Gold continues its upward march, up $90.30 to $48.55 and 90 cents. And we've got crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, up 9 cents a barrel now to $60.45. The other move that's been happening in energy markets over the last week has been what has been going on in nat gas with the cold that has been spreading throughout the continental 48 states. Nat gas prices today up 20%, and since a week ago, going back to the 15th, nat gas prices up almost 50%. This is in anticipation of some additional cold that is going to be coming through much of the country. And by the way, don't know if any of y'all listening have been watching the weather forecast for the eastern part of the United States, but it looks like basically the southeast is going to get an inch or two of ice. If you're in the mountains in North Carolina, I've seen projections of up to like 18 inches of snow, which for North Carolina is insane.
Serious, yeah.
And then now into the Pennsylvania, New York, and New England region, you've got projections for north of a foot of snow as well. Again, this is still about 4 days off, so this can evolve as we get closer and the models get a little bit more accurate. But to this point, it sure looks like a decent chunk of the country is going to be inoperable for at least portions of early next week. Again, our show is broadcast out of the New England region. We're pretty good at getting rid of snow. They just don't have many plows in Atlanta, as an example.
Right.
And so that's why whenever Atlanta gets, a 1/10 of an inch of ice, you end up with, 18-hour traffic jams, and it just gets dodgy. It looks like we may be heading towards some of this. The track does appear to be moving north a bit, so maybe Atlanta gets spared on this one and gets some rain instead. But either way, could be dodgy, and this could be something that impacts travel and overall economic activity in the last week of January. So do keep that in mind when we get next month's retail sales report. You could have some pretty big impacts because of this storm and this cold coming through. The cold also, by the way, for any Midwest oil refineries, they do have to end up shutting down when it gets too cold, so you might see some movement on that front as far as gas prices in the Midwest as well that might not be able to be fully supplied by those refineries and instead need to be pulling in from other parts of the country. So, again, the weather can, wreak some havoc on things over the short term, and it looks like we're in for one of those in this weekend and early next week.
Wednesday weather with Chuck Zodda from the Financial Exchange.
Yeah,
we
I
do it all.
I'm not, Mr. Meteorologist, but I've dabbled every now and then in the arts of the clouds.
Who hasn't?
I got buddies who are like commodity traders who are into this stuff, so they get all excited about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, like tell me more about like the bomb cyclone, like what kind of bombs are they? And they're like, no, that's not what it is. I'm like, oh, okay. But in any case, this is what's going on weather-wise. Other news, other things, top story today. Clearly, you've got some tension in Davos over Greenland. That was, present over the last couple days. And I still think, we're going to have to see how this evolves in terms of actual actions by a number of different parties. I'm not one for really, paying too close attention to what someone is saying with their words, simply because you can say one thing and then do something completely different. So I tend to take the approach, and I think it's served most people well over the last year or so. Hey, don't worry too much about what's being said. Let's look at what actually ends up being implemented and done. And you can get a lot of worry off your plate in doing so. Let the market do the worrying for you. So we'll see how this evolves, but obviously that is, a major story that we'll continue to track here. Netflix reported earnings after the bell yesterday. What do we see from them, Paul?
Chuck, the stock is trading down about 4% today, and largely it's not because of anything on the revenue side of things. The revenue numbers came in just fine. I believe it was $12 billion for the Q4 number for revenue, but really the focus is spending heading into 2026. Obviously, what's been covered extensively by us and other affiliates out there is the constant battle that they've been in with Paramount over acquiring Warner Brothers. As of yesterday, Netflix had upped their offer to purchase streaming and studio businesses of Warner Brothers to $27.75 a share as an all-cash deal rather than a mix of stock and cash. The stock for Netflix has been down about 30% over the last 3 months, so that complicated things a little bit. Paramount has been sitting at $30 a share. That vote on the deal for Warner Brothers shareholders is supposed to be in April. But really, in terms of what you're seeing from Netflix from their quarterly numbers here, they did take a little bit of a hit for their future profitability. They had spent about $18 billion on programming. Last year, they saw about 8% subscriber growth up to 325 million subscribers. But going into this year, they're going to need to spend more and more. I mean, part of it is going to be the cost of closing this deal, which they estimate that's $275 million to try and close the deal with Warner Brothers. But in general, the earnings per share fell short of what Wall Street had forecast. And it's an interesting year for Netflix. They have dominated the streaming space, that's for sure, compared to its competitors. And they are continuing to try and make the strategic acquisition with Warner Bros. To delve into other areas. I mean, right now, Chuck, their real lever to pull on increasing revenue is pretty simple. I mean, yes, they are growing subscriber growth to 325 million, but at some point you reach kind of a point of saturation, or there's only so much subscriber growth you can drive. The other way you got to pull it is just increase prices, and it seems like they are poised to do that heading into 2026. With the Warner Brothers acquisition, that would allow for them to take a huge library of content and new material to try and jump into other products, video games, experiences, and consumer products in general. So, interesting year ahead for Netflix.
And Netflix at this point is, I think you can call them what they are, which is a mature company whose explosive growth is likely behind them. But as you noted, they've got pricing power, and that's going to be something that I think they seek to exploit in the coming years in order to grow from there. I think that's kind of where we're heading on this. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we've got trivia right after this.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Social Security and Medicare are oftentimes lumped together, but may be handled separately. And depending on your strategy, they could shape your entire retirement plan. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Choosing when to start Social Security has many effects, including determining the amount of guaranteed income you receive each month. Medicare decisions go beyond coverage as they can impact premiums, out-of-pocket costs, and access to providers throughout retirement. Our new guide is called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It will help you learn how these decisions may fit together and how to take the right steps at the right time to build a secure retirement plan. Call us at 800-393-4001 to get your copy of How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. When a loved one needs a nursing home, decisions need to be made quickly. If you haven't started planning yet, get Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. In it, you'll learn how to make smart decisions and avoid unnecessary expenses. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Hear the Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Remember, the Financial Exchange streams live every day on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and follow market activity all morning long. only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Just search the Financial Exchange on YouTube and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and last night Air Force One had to turn around mid-flight to return to Andrews Air Force Base to fix an electrical issue. The first plane used specifically for presidential travel was the Sacred Cow, which took FDR to the Yalta Conference. The call sign Air Force One was first used in 1954. So our trivia question today, which U.S. president was the first to fly on a plane dubbed Air Force One? Once again, which U.S. president was the first to fly on a plane dubbed Air Force One? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, along with the keyword trivia, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the fourth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, along with the keyword trivia, will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
United reported earnings after the bell yesterday. The stock is up a little bit less than 1% today, which is actually worse than what the market is up. So my read is that the quarter was fine, but there's nothing really to write home about there. Your thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, I thought it was going to tick up a little bit higher because they similarly to what we saw with Delta, reported a pretty significant increase in revenue from premium offerings. That seems to be the story here, Chuck, for Delta United, is that these first class or business seats are really the drivers of revenue growth for United and Delta. And then you have even some of the cheaper airlines trying to jump into this space, with Spirit going through its second round of bankruptcy, but it just came across my desk here in the Wall Street Journal piece that they're now going to offer first-class seats, which is news to me there. But ultimately, in terms of the stuff that we're seeing here from United, while they did see increase on the cabin revenue for the premium segment, the overall hit that they took from the government shutdown, that was about $250 million, and just perhaps some tepid growth heading into 2026, just not enough to excite investors. But overall, if you look at the numbers, not a bad quarter for them at all.
No, and kind of, as you noted, what we've been seeing from other airlines as far as, that premium cabin being the driving force behind the growth that they are seeing. Piece in Bloomberg Opinion: Wall Street's bounty doesn't extend to the job market. And basically what you are seeing here is, look, financials have reported earnings. They've been fine. Banks have gotten punished because of the earnings, just because they haven't been as rosy as people had hoped for. But banks are also saying, yeah, guys, even though our earnings are good, we're not really hiring here, and at least on a net basis. And so ultimately, it's kind of this story that we've had over the last 6 to 8 months, which is that earnings growth has been powering stocks, but that same earnings growth is not translating into companies being willing to increase hiring in any meaningful way, if at all.
That's the story of the job market really over the course of the last 12 months plus or so, Chuck. And this one is highlighting specifically the financial sector, where there was 10,600 workers that were taken out of the sector, the worst since 2016. A lot of that was from Wells Fargo. They've had 22 quarters of consecutive cuts as they're trying to reshape the company. So that was the big reason there. But ultimately, you're seeing a tremendous amount of activity in terms of deal making and potential IPOs heading into this year for the financial sector's financial services sector. And it seems like earnings and profitability, like you mentioned, all those things are growing quite well. But there is this consistent scrutiny, and Bank of America has been sitting at about 213,000 headcount for 2 or 3 years now, where they are trying to assess whether they need to replace people as they leave. And this is a blanket statement, it feels like, for a lot of different industries out there. Do we need to replace this person is something that is in tremendous focus. Is some of this burnout from the post-COVID hiring boost and just companies reshaping their workforce there?
Yeah.
Or is it, a larger sign?
It's probably a little bit of both. Because companies during that 21 to 20, early 20, that 2021 through like early 23 period, they were just hiring everyone they could.
Right.
Because they were like, they're seeing massive increases in sales. They're like, we just need all hands on deck. We got to bring everyone in. And part of what happens when you do that is, look, you've got to pay top dollar for those people. So I think part of it is, hey, if we had to bring someone on for like 150% of the normal salary that we pay during that time, can we find a way, like, this is how I think a lot of these companies are thinking, can we find a way to make life kind of uncomfortable for them so they'll leave, and then we can bring someone back in at a more normal salary? You know, it's not a net change in headcount, but it might be a net reduction in overall compensation.
Or, you know, coming to the office 5 days a week. We've seen a lot of that sort of the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Make life uncomfortable.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you're going to quit because you don't want to come back in 5 days a week.
Right.
You know, like we want to get you to move on. So I think there's that. And then some of it is also, look, depending on the industry, hey, sales growth is not uniform across all businesses. And so there's some, you know, reductions in some areas and hiring that's still going on in others that ultimately is just kind of netting out to overall flat hiring. Like that's just what it is right now. There's no big hiring impulse that is coming through. It's just, okay, we're largely, you know, replacing our workers, and that's about it. And we'll have to see if there's any positive inflection that we get there over the next, 3 to 4 months. I think that'll be the big thing to look at here. Let's see. Along these lines, CEOs say AI is making work more efficient. Employees tell a different story. And basically what you have here is that more than 40% of executives are saying that the technology is saving them more than 8 hours of work a week. But 2/3 of non-management staffers are saying that they saved less than 2 hours of work a week or no time at all. So there's clearly a difference of opinion in terms of whether AI is helping or not on this stuff at this point.
This is a story really for 2026 is we've seen these tremendous increases in valuations of these big companies, but we need to try and see more of a material impact of artificial intelligence on businesses with productivity and revenue growth. And there are some stories that I could moonlight to say that that is the case. But I think on a broad basis, because the technology is in its infancy, the adoption across all different sectors of business, it's taking a while. And you just have different stories, Chuck, at least for me personally, that make you feel different ways. It's some things I hear about that are tremendous and really have a lot of optimism. And I still do from a longer term perspective, but that near term is cloudy to me. Sometimes I use it personally and sort of say, geez, this isn't really doing as much as I thought it would be doing for me on a business day-to-day basis.
No, sometimes, and also it's hard to tell sometimes what's a problem with the technology and what's a problem with how we're using it, because you have to like train yourself also in new ways to approach it. It's not a search engine in the same way. It's not, like if you tried to use a screwdriver to hammer in a nail, you'd be like, oh, this sucks.
Yep.
But if you're using it to put in screws, you're like, oh, this is pretty good actually. Like it. We'll try it again. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got the trivia answer in Wall Street Watch.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? but you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Social Security and Medicare are oftentimes lumped together, but may be handled separately. And depending on your strategy, they could shape your entire retirement plan. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Choosing when to start Social Security has many effects, including determining the amount of guaranteed income you receive each month. Medicare decisions go beyond coverage as they can impact premiums, out-of-pocket costs, and access to providers throughout retirement. Our new guide is called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. It will help you learn how these decisions may fit together and how to take the right steps at the right time to build a secure retirement plan. Call us at 800-393-4001 to get your copy of How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange legal quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about last-minute nursing home lessons that can help save your assets. Todd, more and more people are providing in-home care for their loved ones. Is there anything a care provider can do that would be beneficial to them or the family?
So if you're already providing care for an individual at home, and more people, as you said, are in fact doing that, the best thing to do is to set up a personal care contract, right? A personal care contract is something that allows you to get paid by your family member, and as long as you report it on your income tax return and prepare a personal care contract, make sure you get an elder law lawyer to help you prepare that contract because it's got to be done right. But if you do those two things, get the contract and provide the care and put the income on your income tax return, the transfers are non-disqualifying transfers. So even if you don't make the 5 years, those dollars that you're moving will not need to be returned and they will be protected. Also, while you're doing that, set up the trust and get the 5-year clock started. Put some assets in because you just never know if you're going to make it or not, and you would always want to have that 5-year clock running to protect your assets.
Cushing & Dolan has written a brand new guide, especially for those of you who have put off doing your planning and are now faced with a last-minute nursing home situation. Request this brand new guide from Cushing & Dolan. It's called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. You can call 866-848-5699, or you can simply request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. Once again, simply call 866-848-5699, or get it from their website at legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets rebounding from yesterday's sell-off as Wall Street reacts to President Trump's remarks at the World Economic Forum in Davos this morning, where Trump called for immediate negotiations to acquire Greenland and said he won't use force. Right now, the Dow is up nearly 1% or 449 points higher. S&P 500 up about 0.9% or 61 points higher. NASDAQ up nearly 1% or 218 points. Russell 2000 is up 1 1/3%. 10-year Treasury yield down 2 basis points at 4.271%. And crude oil mostly flat, dipping, trading at $60.33 a barrel. Netflix falling over 4% after the streaming giant posted better than expected quarterly results. The company also counted a record 325 million global paid subscribers. However, concerns about rising costs for Netflix are weighing on the stock. Meanwhile, United Airlines stock is up over 2% after the carrier said it expects earnings to jump this year with its Price Your Seats and loyalty program outperforming standard ticket sales. Elsewhere, Kraft Heinz shares down over 5% following news that Berkshire Hathaway may soon sell some or all of its stake in the food maker just months after the firm announced plans to split into two companies. And Johnson & Johnson stock is down over 1.5% after the pharmaceutical company posted stronger than expected financial forecast for this year, in addition to solid earnings for the previous quarter. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the previous segment, we asked you the trivia question: which U.S. president was the first to fly on a plane dubbed Air Force One? That would be Eisenhower. Chris from Walpole, Mass. is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Chris. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Paul, we got a piece in CNBC. It's actually from the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, who consistently just puts out excellent research on retiree spending and financial planning topics. Like year in, year out, it's like we always just get fun stuff from them. And what they found here, I'll quote from the piece: more than 8 in 10 retiree households, 83%, face unplanned outlays in any given year, according to new research from the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College. Among households that do experience unexpected expenses, the average annual amount spent across retirement is typically around $6,000 per year. Measured another way, the typical household will spend an amount equivalent to 10% of its yearly income. Now, I do think it's important to contextualize this in that I think often what's put in here as unexpected expenses, these are things that I think many retirees, because they've been budgeting for 50 years or so, they understand these things are going to happen. Oh, hey, you had a flat tire. Okay, in order to get a replacement, that's going to be a couple hundred months. Hey, you've got prescription costs that might be a few $100s. You understand and expect that may happen. So I think some of this falls into normal spending patterns anyways, but it does get at the idea that, hey, you do need to plan that there might be some new things that happen that hit you in retirement that you're not used to. Maybe you haven't had any prescriptions for your whole life, and as your health changes and evolves, you start to have them in retirement, and that's a new thing that you need to budget for. So I think that this is kind of an interesting look at the realities of, hey, how does a budget evolve as you get into and go through retirement?
Yeah, it's something that, Chuck, we spend a ton of time with our clients trying to create that foundation if someone's preparing for retirement. And even for those people who are in retirement, like you mentioned, the expenses change on a yearly basis. I can't tell you how many withdrawal requests I get for dental expenses, unexpected ones there. That seems to be a recurring theme that we see quite often. It's just that those come out of the blue and they're significant in nature in terms of how much the cost is. But that is so critical in terms of retirement success, is understanding what your monthly budget looks like, but making sure that you're grouping in these one-off charges, because oftentimes when you meet with people, they'll quote you the number that is kind of their baseline expenses, hey, food,
Sure,
cable, mortgage, etc. But oftentimes these types of things are missed, and so studying historical numbers of last 12 months or last 6 months of spending data can be a lot more useful to kind of encapsulate some of these one-off expenses. It's an important part of planning.
Folks, if you're looking to get someone on the phone or meet someone in person to chat a little bit about your financial planning, maybe see if you can get your budget in line with where it needs to be in the new year, the Armstrong Advisory Group has offices all throughout the New England region and advisors that are happy to discuss your financial plan with you. Call 800-393-4001 to speak with a member of our team. Again, it is a great time of year to kind of get started on improving your finances in the new year. And that number again is 800-393-4001 to speak to a member of the Armstrong Advisory Group, whether it's about building a financial plan, improving a financial plan, or taking a look at investments to help coordinate them with your financial plan. The These are all things that the Armstrong Advisory Group can help with. Again, that number is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Great piece in the Wall Street Journal. I actually really enjoy this one. This January, Americans aren't just giving up alcohol. They're giving up buying anything at all. Fueled by social media, some consumers are starting the new year with a no-buy January, where they are trying to eliminate purchases of anything non-essential for the entire 31 days of January. And I got to say, I've never done something quite like this. Like, occasionally I do have a month where I'm like, yeah, I spent too much last month and I really need to, rope things in and recover from that a little bit. But I think that this is an interesting way just to get people to start being more conscious about their spending in terms of, look, it's every company out there right now has tried to make it ridiculously easy to buy stuff by reducing friction. Oh, just click to buy this on your phone and use Apple Pay and do this and do that, and it's faster and quicker and easier. What I found, and I think what a great middle ground is, if you can't commit to no buy January, my little trick that I do is, look, if I'm buying something and my threshold that I set is if it's over $100, I do not buy it this second that I look at it. I force myself to sleep on it and come back to it the next day. And if I still really am like, no, I need to follow through on this, I'll buy it. But otherwise, a lot of times I sit there and I'm like, no, you know what? I don't need to do that. I can wait and it'll be just fine. But I think the idea of, consumers finding ways to be more thoughtful about spending, I think is great.
I agree with you. I personally, and probably a lot of people fall in this camp, you look at your credit card bill from the holiday season, and had a similar conversation with my wife. I'm like, we really should try and rein some of this stuff in for January once you look at some of the expenses that you had for the kids and other people at the end of last year. And hopefully we can get on the same page, but it does seem like it's always a push and pull sort of effort. But I like to try and follow like the monthly credit card spend and just sort of see like, hey, what can we do to reduce the number from last month? Like similar sort of approach. What are some ways that we can cut down that number to bring down the average? So I'm right with this trend. I feel like January is a prime month coming off the holidays to scrutinize this kind of thing.
Let's take a quick break here. When we return, it's time for a little bit of Stack Roulette.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. From the elder law attorneys at Cushing & Dolan, here's something you need to hear. Most people think long-term care planning is something they'll get to someday, until suddenly someday is today. When a spouse or parent needs nursing home care and no planning was done, the costs can be overwhelming. Cushing & Dolan are elder law and estate planning attorneys who help New England families protect their homes, savings, and retirement, even when a health crisis comes out of nowhere. They've just released a new guide called Long-Term Care Planning for Procrastinators. It explains what options may still be available and what steps you should take before writing that first check to a nursing home. If you've been putting this off, or a loved one needs care right now, time matters. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 to get your free guide. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online by visiting LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest mistakes you can make as you prepare for retirement is missing important deadlines for Social Security and Medicare. You can apply for Social Security up to 4 months before you want benefits to begin. Medicare has a 7-month enrollment window around your 65th birthday. Missing that window may cause coverage delays. Something else to consider is that you don't have to start them at the same time. You can enroll in Medicare at 65, but delay Social Security to increase your monthly benefit. Learn more in our new guide called How to Apply for Social Security and Medicare. To get your free copy, call us today at 800-393-4001. 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001. Or request the guide online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. If you've been dreaming about a getaway that feels far away but easy to get to, it's time to think about the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean. This is a place where you can fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Enjoy crystal clear water and powder-soft beaches, world-class dining, sailing, and unforgettable sunsets. And here's the best part. Travel from New England is easy. The U.S. Virgin Islands are part of the United States, which means no passport required and no money to exchange. Just pack your bags and go. Spend your day snorkeling, sailing, hiking, or simply relaxing by the water, and your evenings enjoying local cuisine, live music, and warm island breezes. Explore St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, 3 distinct islands, each with its own vibe, its own flavor, and its own way of helping you unplug and reset. Start planning your Caribbean escape today and visit usvi.com. Discover why the U.S. Virgin Islands are America's Caribbean paradise. For more information and to book your trip, head to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up. Because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The Financial Exchange is now available every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Stay informed about the latest from Wall Street, fiscal policy, and breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is incredibly proud to be a partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Planning is well underway for the 2026 DAV 5K. The event sold out in record time last year, so head to dav5k.boston for all the information about how you can participate this November or make a donation to support our great American heroes. Your gifts help fund free rides to medical appointments for veterans and the nation's first DAV-led housing initiative, providing homes for single veterans and veteran families. Go to dav5k.boston and make your donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
Paul, what do you got for me for Stack Roulette?
Chuck, Elon Musk is racing to take SpaceX public. This is quite a bit of a reversal from what he had sort of opined before about being a publicly traded company, really sort of regretting all the entanglements that come with being a publicly traded company for Tesla. But he's sort of changed his tune and is now trying to get this IPO out in July of this year, according to the piece here in the Wall Street Journal. And it seems as if the catalyst for his enthusiasm in going to the public markets is this idea of building data centers for AI computing in space, which apparently SpaceX for years has been developing technology such as computing nodes that would be helpful for an AI satellite network, according to forum employees. But regardless, it will probably be the biggest IPO of the year if it is to occur this year. There's also some enthusiasm for Musk to try and help this bolster his XAI company and sort of to parlay these two together as the IPO market is looking a little bit more sort of a lot more exuberance for it this year. Anthropic is another one that's been mentioned out as coming public, SpaceX, and potentially OpenAI too, make for a huge year in terms of IPOs if this were all three were to participate.
I'm curious just in general about the whole idea of data centers in space, and just because like I've heard it talked about by a number of people. It's not something where it's like just Elon Musk talking about this. Like this is something that I've heard a number of people discuss in terms of, hey, this is something that we think is a legit development that we want to make happen. And I guess what I struggle with on this is I look at it and look, I don't know how heavy data centers are. Like, I've never been like, gee, how many pounds do you think that building weighs? Like, it's not a normal conversation that you have. But what I do know is that when you talk about like the payloads that we can get into orbit, you're generally looking at payloads somewhere in the range of 15 to 30,000 pounds is what you can get into orbit. And it's at, pretty expensive cost. And so I'm just trying to figure out, like, how much data center can you launch into orbit? And furthermore, like, you can't maintain it. Like, let's say that if something breaks in a data center on Earth, you send Billy over there, hey, put a new microprocessor in it. You got to get that taken care of. We're losing power. Okay, great. Like, we'll get it done. No problem. If something breaks up there in your data center, you don't just have like a rocket sitting there like, okay, like we're ready to go. You're not firing these things off every 3 hours. It's kind of a process to get everything in position so that you can do it right, let alone having the rocket availability. So I've got questions on that kind of stuff, but there are people way smarter than me that I'm sure are looking at this and have figured out, hey, because like the power thing isn't an issue because you can have, solar panels up there that, can get the sun without the atmospheric interference. You can get more power and It's cheaper and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sure they've looked at this and tried to figure out the math, but
the weight piece is a valid concern because I think I had heard on some podcast somewhere that you're talking about some of these server racks running like 3,000 pounds for each rack. And like, if you just extrapolate to what you're talking about, 5 or 6 server racks when you're talking about data centers that are being built that are, several Home Depots long, it doesn't seem like that would really be of great benefit to be able, even if you launch several of those satellites, like how do you get to the same scale that a Northern Virginia data center does that is, 10 Home Depots long? I'm right with you on that, but I acknowledge that it is a subject that is way above my pay grade in terms of space, acumen. But I love it. I love the idea of it. I think it's, fantastic and interesting, but it does seem like one of these things, we're having trouble as it is getting AI to be, the transformative technology. I'm not saying that there's this huge issue, but that problem hasn't been solved, or maybe in 2026 we make huge strides, but it seems like this is a far further leap to get these satellites into space to solve our AI data center issue this immediately.
If you could solve one problem on Earth by launching something into space, what problem do you want to solve, Paul?
Wow. That is a great question. It's got to be the energy one. Harnessing the solar energy would be pretty helpful given the demand there. But you've put my brain in a pretzel. Do you have an answer for this?
No, I don't. I'm trying to think of like.
Well, it's like food. I can't immediately go to world hunger, but I'm like, how is that going to be solved? You can't get food going back and
forth and this and that.
Yeah.
I think in a perfect world, and again, like, look, to a certain extent, like this is very dumb for a large number of reasons, which is why we don't do it. But one of the main holdups in trying to develop more nuclear power is no one wants to hold the waste.
Right.
There are obvious reasons why you don't launch it into space. Because it can blow up anywhere along the way, and now instead of, hey, like, here's like a little bit of nuclear waste, now it's like there's a lot spread out over a big area. Mm-hmm. So, that's kind of problematic, and this is before you even get into, okay, so you send it into space, and like, what exactly happens to it? Like, where does it go?
now you're just like polluting space. Doesn't that just feel like morally or ethically bad or something? But is it really worse than just putting it under a mountain in Nevada? Probably not. Like, ultimately, you're going to use the stuff to make fuel. It's just a matter of where you're sending it. So, I don't know. Like, that's kind of one place that my head goes. I personally think that, again, just from, my own personal preference, I would love to have, like, commercial space flight more, a lot cheaper and just open to more people, because I'd love to go. I know, Tucker, you're very anti-space, yes?
Yeah, like, what are we going to do up there?
Play ping
Seriously,
pong.
what are we going to do up there?
You could play ping pong.
Yeah, good luck getting that ball.
Yeah, it's over there. Don't worry about it.
Floats away into space.
I don't know.
Now what do we do?
So you're just talking about
kick.
So you're just talking about leisure travel.
Yeah. Like, what are we gonna do?
No, that's your number one.
There's
The energy.
There's a reason why Frank Sinatra wrote "Fly Me to the Moon."
Yeah.
He wanted to go to the moon. In any case, taking a look at markets as we head towards the top of the hour, stocks retracing some of their gains from today. Dow is now up 326 point. S&P is up 33. NASDAQ Composite up 71. So stocks that previously were up around 1% for the day, now up anywhere from about 0.25% to 0.67% as they try to hold on to their gains after yesterday's losses. So we'll see where this bounce goes. 10-year Treasury holding relatively flat, down 1.2 basis points to 4.283%. So coming in just a little bit there. But overall, we'll have to see if stocks can hold on to these gains over the course of the day. Clearly, some buying appetite early in the morning. Is there enough to power through and continue things moving in the right direction? Well, I guess we'll all see tomorrow. Hope you all have a great rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow on The Financial Exchange.